What is up, ghouls, gals, creeps, and moons alike? The Undead Matt here again, of course, with another new band showcase episode. First things first, I know we've kind of been a little lax with these episodes and bringing them out. Honestly, the reason for that is because of, it always comes back really to the pandemic and how it's really affected a lot of things. We've kind of mentioned it in a few times in a few other interviews that schedules change and some bands are just having hard times to come on. And so right now, for us, instead of trying to rush bands and pressure them on to the show, we're also trying to, for ourselves, stick to our strengths with content that we already have planned to come out. And so now that all that planned content has been coming out and we're catching up on it, we're now bringing more bands back onto the show and encouraging them to come on. And so as the year kind of like wraps up, you might be seeing a little bit more band showcases pop up here and there. And so we're honestly going to try to keep it coming down to very minimum at the very least, one in the beginning of the month and one at the end of the month. So the first and last Wednesday of each month, we're going to try to keep with that. We were doing pretty good about bringing out a few at a time, but right now that's what we're focused on. Also with that is that we are looking kind of right now at changing media host services. And so when we kind of navigate that will also be affecting our content. And so we're trying not to overload the amount of content that we're putting out. So that way when we do transition over finally, it goes a little more smoothly than it is as it could be hectic and disorganized. That being said though, I do want to bring you back to today's episode. Today I got to talk with Union Thugs Jennifer Bobette from Montreal, and honestly it was really cool experience just because this is now like probably like a small handful of bands that have come on who have had members that do speak a different language, and there's a very slight language barrier, but it's really just kind of a surreal cool moment because I got to talk to this individual who just like us loves punk music, loves the punk scene, and loves what punk is about. And without giving too much away, she has a lot of great things to talk about and what the punk scene is like out there and what Union Thugs are doing, what they're about is just really kind of noble in a sense. So I mean, with that aside, I'm gonna go ahead and stop teasing it and let's go ahead and jump into today's band showcase episode. I'm the Undead Matt, of course, and it is another band showcase episode. Today is an exciting one. We are bringing on Jennifer Bobette of the Union Thugs band. And let me tell you right now, Ghouls, Gals, Creeps, and Me, and talk about a band that is talking about some very serious, awesome stuff that needs to be addressed. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Hola.
So it's real exciting bringing you on. You're calling in from Montreal and to Colorado, and I think probably one of the few things we share is snowy weather. So as dorky of a thing it is to point that out, I figured we could take some solidarity in the coldness. But how are things going for you? I know you're coming on after just being done from vacation, and then how are things on your side of the planet?
Oh man, everything is good here. Montreal is a great city. Little bit boring right now because of the pandemic. There's no shows, no festival, and nothing. So that's why I took off in vacation because there's nothing to do in the city. But yeah, so far so good, man. I'm good. I'm good.
Not to make the pandemic take too much of the spotlight, but just because we've talked about it a lot over here on our end with a lot of other bands that are over here too, can I ask you what it's like been working with through the pandemic and making that work for you guys, for the band and specifically?
For us, what happened, to make it short, since the beginning of the pandemic, we stopped jamming and we put ourselves in quarantine for like 2 months. And after we start jamming again and we started playing shows again, but mostly on picket lines and park in like open area. And we did one indoor show with limited limited audience out of Montreal, because in Montreal right now there's no shows. But when you're going out of Montreal, they start slowly starting shows again with limited capacity. So, and we'll start jamming again. We just released a CD. We released at the beginning of the pandemic a video clip. So, yeah, we're back on track, and we're trying to find ourselves some struggles to go support with our music.
So, I mean, first of all, kudos to you and Union Thugs for kind of just pulling through during this pandemic and doing what you can for shows. I mean, we've talked to bands who who can't even rehearse and are just really limited by their distance, and what they have to kind of go through to survive this. And so, I mean, do you feel like even more so right now, making music is just as much, if not more so, important with what everybody's going through, especially for the type of message that you and your band have been putting out?
Well, yeah, of course, I think it's more and more important than ever, because right now with the pandemic, there's a lot of working class struggle going on, just with the teachers and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important that we are showing ourselves with our music and our instrument to cheer their people up. And yeah, man, everything's going good, and music always been important, huh? If it's not just for the struggles that are going on, it's when you're being locked up for months and months, well, music, it's like a little bit of therapy. So so yeah, man, music always been important in everyone's life, I think, at some point, and now I think it's more than ever for all kind of different things that I just mentioned before.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. It's moments like these that are very important, that we keep, looking towards art and the medium of art in order to work through the roughest of times. I mean, it's when you feel very powerless, art is something that gives you power, and I think it's great that not just you, but also a lot of other bands are continuing and pushing forward and doing whatever they can, especially for their listener base, as much as possible. So the fact that you're even just trying to do shows and meet in the middle with like a limited audience, I think is really awesome. So seriously, more power to you and Union Thugs. Um, so going forward over a little bit to it. So Union Thugs, you're this Montreal punk bands from that is singing about unions, and it is pro union, and honestly, you would think that this is kind of something that's more talked of in the punk scene or in punk music in general, considering a large portion of punk is political. And I wanted to hear from you why you felt that unions needed more of a message, why this needed to be more talked about than what is normally talked about in punk.
Oh, well, you just pretty much answered the question. Like, it's not well known talk in the punk scene, so we're like, well, why not? We're all punk rockers and red skinhead in the band, and we're all part of the same union called the IWW, which stands for Industrial Workers of the World. So that's why it's like IW logo is pretty much Union Thugs logo, sort of. So we were like, how can we join the struggles that we've been always talking about, and the music that we want to play? So we were like, let's gather all that together and find songs, because the two first years we were not writing songs, we were just doing covers of songs, but we were adapting them in our own way. So and we were like, well, we started quite a fast of just finding these unions and these struggles and picket lines. Everyone, and I'm just like mentioning our first tour in Ontario. It was not even 1 year. We were a band, and we were in Ontario because we got refused at the border of United States. Yeah, our first tour was supposed to be in the United States, and we end up like we were having two choice. When we got refused at the border, it's like we're going back home, or we're trying to find ourselves shows in Ontario. And what happened is we just start looking for picket lines in Ontario, and this is how we got introduced really fast with our music to picket lines, because we showed up at the first picket line. I really don't remember what was the struggle about, but the reception of the people on strike, and it was raining too, it was not a pretty day, it cheered them up so much. And other picket lines we did, like, people were chanting with us, and so people were really into it. And we just start receiving these calls from unions like, hey, can you guys come play, there's a conference of scabs and we want you guys to play in front of the door, to block the doors for the scabs not to go in or not to go out, whatever. So we were like, okay, there's something going on there, there's something, we can go with that. And so yeah, we have like two different sets. We have one set for the when we're on stage, and one set when we're going on these picket lines. And so in the last year we start writing to our own music, always relevant with the struggles of the working class. We're mainly for the working class, against capitalism, against bosses, against the scabs, and against sexism, homophobia, fascism, and obviously police brutality. And we're gonna go where our place is. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
You know, one thing that really want to compliment you on, just to add on to that, is the passion that you guys have for what you're doing, for the message that you're putting out there, and for what Union Thugs is about. I can just hear it as how you described it to me, really. And honestly, just imagining in my head you being at these picket lines and then you singing your songs, like, and everybody kind of rallying around you. That must have been like a really kind of like confidence building, you know, type of moment, like a good moment of solidarity, not just between, you know, artists and music, but workers who are fighting for, you know, rights that they should have. And so I can just imagine just that moment must have felt pretty surreal. What was that like?
Well, each moment that we are on a picket line are really unique, and but like, our heart are beating fast when we're going there. It's like, as you're saying, the solidarity that is floating above our heads when we're there. It's like undescribable. It's super great. And we're happy that there's a lot of reception from these workers, because it's hard, you know, it's hard for them. It's really hard. It's hard for everyone, man. We're living in a fucking huge capitalism world, so it's hard for every single one of us. So if we can gather our unity, our music, and our struggle all together on the spot, and say a big fuck you to those bosses that are cutting grass, on, you know, it's magical. It's building up magical moment that are, how can I say that in English, but in French it's éphémère. It's there, we're there, half an hour after we're gone, and but these workers keep struggling. So we're our Facebook page, and we're trying to keep touch with these people, and trying to give updates to the people watching us and reading us, giving updates of all the struggles that we're passing by. So we're trying to keep a momentum, just not like going there and after leaving and after not hearing about them. We're trying to keep touch with those people.
You know, for I also just want to give like a side compliment to your English is very great. I know it's I know you're from Montreal and you mostly speak French, and so you're doing really great. I'm actually very, very impressed. And
Thank you.
the reason I mention it though is that even though there is a semi-language barrier to an extent, it's really kind of just surreal to me that there's a solidarity that I have with what you and your band are doing, because I the job I do outside of this podcast is also part of a union, and I work really hard to dispel the myth around what the stigma around that, because unions generally are, you know, have been looked at as enemies against workers for a long time instead of, you know, what they were meant to be.
Yeah.
And so just hearing everything that you're talking about, hearing what people are going through, it hits right at home with me, and I'm just like, wow. Jennifer, she's all the way in Montreal, and she's dealing with the same stuff that we're seeing, and we're just dealing with, especially with on the capitalism end, of course, totally. And so it's just it's really kind of a nice in solidarity hearing this, and just hearing you talk about this, and hearing that Union Thugs is making this a point to write about, sing about, make music about. So seriously, that's really really badass of you and the band, honestly. So bravo. So to kind of change speeds a little bit, I do want to bring it back to your music, but I'm hoping you'll humor me for just a quick moment. And are you willing to play a horror game with me? It's a horror themed game.
Sure.
Okay, so to kind of change things up a little bit, and we'll bring it right back, I promise. So this is connecting to our most recent movie review episodes we've done for last week. And so what we're talking about was Australian horror, and the game that we came up with is called Creature Feature. And so what it was about was, what would you make a horror movie about what animal in Australia? But instead, I want to change it up a little bit, and I want to make it, what would you choose to make a horror movie about in Montreal, but what animal would you pick from Montreal to make a horror movie about? So,
Whoa.
so you can get as creative as you want. You can take, like, I always say the example, you can take a bird and make it a huge bird if you want, or you can make it an army of birds. But what creature would you take from where you're from and make a horror movie about?
I would, okay, honestly, okay, I have the perfect answer, and it's for Montreal, okay? And I'm gonna say why. It would be a massive amount, a crowd of pit bulls. And why I'm saying that, it's because here in Montreal, since I would say, I don't remember, let's say 3 years, Montreal government, the mayor, and the media, mostly the Montreal media, are making people be afraid of pit bulls. But it became so fucking huge. Like all the time on TV, we're seeing, oh, this person got bitten by pit bulls. That happened by pit bulls. That happened by pit bulls. That happened by pit bulls. And actually, all the time at the end, it was not even pit bulls. Like after doing DNA tests, blah, 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 it reveals that it's not pit bulls. But right now, since 3 years, because the government and the media installed a climate of fear towards pit bull, everyone in Montreal is scared of pit bulls, and they try to ban completely pit bulls out of the city, and it didn't work. So I would say, for a horror movie, you throw a fucking huge gang of pit bulls in the street, and everyone's gonna get fucking scared.
I love it. I love it. Total, like a middle finger to the stigma that was created around it.
Yeah.
I love it. That would be, so it would be a horror movie
Oh yeah.
about pit bulls,
Oh
and
yeah.
then the twist at the end of the movie, you would find out it wasn't a pit bull at all.
Exactly.
Maybe it was
Exactly.
a chemical agent. Maybe it was just some dude walking around with like pit bull jaws, biting people, being weird. Name him Hector just for the sake of it. I don't know what other name I'd give him for a guy who would put on fake pit bull jaws to go bite people. Oh man, and I don't know if you know this, but there's kind of a movie that was already made about something to that extent, though. It's I want to bring it back to Union Thugs, but it's called White God. It's all about dogs uprising and getting back at humanity for treating them so wrong, except like for this one little girl who treated one of the dogs nicely, and so they spare her. It's a really good movie. It's a brutal movie, I'm not gonna lie to you, but
Yeah.
but it's a good movie, and in your horror movie, what you just picked, it totally made me think of that. So I like that. Pitbull's finally getting back. Like, yeah, you think we're bad now? Well, guess what? I like that. I like that. All right, bringing it back. And by the way, I'm just having a great time talking to you, Jennifer. Thank you again for coming on.
Me too.
Ghouls, Gals, Creeps, Maintenance. Make sure you really do check out Union Thugs. Give them a follow. Check out their music. So coming back to who Union Thugs are, who your message has been for a while now. listening to some of your music, obviously the first thing that's going to catch any listener's ear is more than likely the accordion, and just hearing that play, it definitely really brings a very rustic home theme to the listener's ear for sure. But when you start listening to the lyrics that are said in each and every song, it just cements that type of feel of not just blue collar work, but workers standing in solidarity. And so one of the songs that really stuck out to me, that I kept coming back to, was called "War on the Workers."
Yeah.
And I just want to ask you about it and ask you what inspired you and the band to write and perform this song.
Well, it's each song are really particular, but we're trying to choose our song in all different ways. Well, most of them the lyrics, what is the message going through, who wrote it, who was the person who wrote it, and all that kind of stuff. And War on the Workers, I think it's one of our hits. Like, we're playing that song in each show, and people chant with us because it's always War on the Workers. So it's pretty easy, and that word is coming back, I don't know, 50 times in that song. So I'm about to get it tattooed, man. so uh, so yeah, War on the Workers, it's one of our hit that people really really like. But we're trying to have songs in French, song in English, and right now we're trying to find song in Spanish. And yeah, so it always depends. But War on the Workers is one of my favorite song. And as you were saying, obviously the accordion is like popping more in the band. But like each single instrument have his own personality in the band. And yeah, and Eric with his lyrics, I really like how our singer is not only singing the song. He's not singing the lyrics. He's feeling it. He's living with the lyrics, and all the speeches that we're doing before each song is like to introduce the next song, and it's to we're trying to find a story about the song, and yeah, that's it.
And I love, and I also don't mean to just like solely focus on the accordion, because going back to your singer as well, when I hear his voice, and this is just a compliment to the entire band as an entirety also, you can definitely hear that there's like a pain the way he sings, but it's
Yeah.
not necessarily his own pain, but a pain for, what you're talking about, workers that are being attacked, or even sexism in the workplace, a lot of things that we've all experienced sadly and should never have experienced. But you can hear that. But although that there is this pain, there's also this overtone of, again, I feel like I've been saying the word heavy, not meaning to, but like solidarity within each other, like strength within the people. And that's what I hear every time I listen to your music, is that I hear that, it wasn't just a band that found a simple message to make music about. It was a band that knew that they needed to make something about this, that this is the art that needed to be talked about. This is the message that needed to be made. And so the way you have structured your music around that, and with the fact that you're trying to, include as, many dialects as possible with French, Spanish, and English in it, I mean, there's a lot to appreciate there, and there's a lot to take a lot of inspiration from as well. Just what would the song? I'm phrasing it poorly. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Um, if somebody was going to jump onto your Bandcamp, what songs would you want them to listen to right away? Like, say you have a friend that you're hanging out with, and you're like, "Hey, I want you to listen to this one first." What would
Well,
that song be?
well, oh my God, that's a tough question.
It's not picking a favorite. It's not
That's a
picking a
really
favorite.
tough
I
question.
swear.
But honestly, I would say with War on the Workers, because that song represents everything about union thugs, everything. So I would say War on the Workers all the way.
Got it.
You listen to War on the Workers, and you know what Union Thugs is about. And we are a new band, huh? We are only 3 years old. Like, we have a lot going on still, and I know we're gonna make things better for the working class. And yeah, man, a lot of new adventure is upon us. I know that for a fact. But yeah, War on the Workers is definitely a song that that stick to us a lot.
Can you talk a little bit what's on the horizon for Union Thugs and what you guys are working on by chance?
Well, right now we're gonna be working on a new video clip, and we just print some new T-shirt. We were at the pandemic. We were having two tours booked, one in Mexico and one in Europe. We were doing Switzerland, France, and Germany, and all that got canceled. But we still have our planes tickets. So I guess in the I don't know. I would like to say near future, but in the future, I think we're gonna be starting to build these stores again because these stores are not getting organized in 2 hours. You know, it's a few months. So I think yeah, but it's mostly we're trying to find picket lines to go work, to go play our music, and yeah, right now it's pretty much what's on our plates.
Uh, Love it. So I'm definitely looking forward to that video clip. Let us know when that's up and ready to go, and we'll definitely promote it on our end for sure. We'd love to see that. And I hope that works out with tours too. I hope you guys can get some more shows out before this year ends, and go stand in solidarity, give people a little more hope. It's definitely been interesting the difference in how messages are taken care of, and not taken care of, but how they're approached and how people appreciate them. And so to kind of give a little bit more example, be a little more clear, down here, in the States, in Denver at least, there's some parts of the scene where if you had a band that mostly talked about union work, that they would think it's like kind of cool, but wouldn't as subscribe to it as immediately as other bands. So I wanted to ask you, how has it been playing on your side of the world for your scene? How has your scene taken to singing about the union? So obviously workers love what you're doing, and that's fantastic. But how has the punk scene itself been taken to what you're doing and your guys' message?
Well, yeah, the punk scene fucking love us, man. Like we're part of the punk scene. They always been part of the punk scene. I've been in the punk scene for almost 20 years. So, well, this when we're on stage, it's the same thing, but we're a little bit more fast. We have a crazy huge electric set that we're keeping for punk shows, and we play our songs, but I don't know, fucking 10 times faster. And me with my accordion, I'm like, trying to fucking just catch up. And no, well, yeah, we play like we start counting our shows, and in the two first year we were playing 45 shows a year, which is huge. It's almost
Wow.
it's almost once a week. And on these 45 shows, let's say half of that were in concert punk shows, and half of that were on picket lines and protest. So we're like having that natural balance between the two, which we're okay with it. But no, man, the venues when we're playing are always mostly underground punk venues, and it's always jam packed. Since the first song, it's always a mosh pit. People, man, fucking raising their fist and chanting with us. The reception from the punks and the subculture in Montreal is actually really fucking insane, and we're all well-known people in the scene, and there's a bunch of the guys in the band that have other bands too that were well known, so it makes things a lot easier for us. But the reception everywhere we're playing, we're going, is just great. Nothing to complain about. Nothing.
Great. I love hearing that. I love hearing it when hearing more about punk scenes from other parts of the world in general, just because same with horror movies, we feel is that we usually get kind of a bad rap because there's so many that are very gory and over the top and very stereotypical type of horror films. And so we feel that there's a similar stigma with punk scenes of being, groups of grumpy, mean people who are just doing drugs and causing trouble all the time. And because there's only been a few people that have ever done that, that unfortunately has been the stigma that has stayed with a lot of the scene, at least here in the States.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I get it. But
I love it.
Montreal is a really easygoing underground scene. Honestly, oh
Really.
yeah, man.
Well, I hope one day to visit Montreal to experience it for myself. That is for sure. And also, again, like the statement of, whenever viewing a professional do anything, everybody says, "Oh, well, they make it look so easy." Well, that's because they've been doing it for so long and know how to do it. Doing 45 shows within a
Yeah,
year, I can't even. The fact that you can balance that, one being in clubs and in bars, on venues, playing there, and then in picket lines, having to balance both of those, I think is a testament to your commitment and the band's commitment. Really, I mean. And the fact that you're just like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. I'm just like, I don't know, 45 sounds a lot.
we're honestly, we're never refusing a show. Never, never, never. And when one member cannot do a show, we're doing it. We're gonna do the show at two people, three, four, five, or six. We're adapting ourselves. So when half of the band cannot play, we're still gonna go. So that makes things easier too for us.
Wow, that's a type of ethic that I think is kind of talked about somewhat for bands here on our side of the world, but I don't know if it's really practiced as much. So that's just really kind of that's really inspiring to just the motto of keep pushing forward no matter the
Yeah,
setback. So
exactly.
I'm and wrap up the show today. I got one more question I want to ask you, and I want to say thank you again one more time, Jennifer, for coming on and hanging out with me. It's been a blast talking to you. Really, it
Thank you for
has.
inviting me and the band, which is not there, but they are there in spirit.
No worries. I unfortunately can't read what your poster says, but behind your head right now, listeners don't know
Oh,
that you're on video.
it's a banner. It's a banner from last year, anti-police brutality protest, and it say everyone hates the police and the fascists.
I love it. I love it. Right on, right on. Power to the people. So the last question I want to ask you is the question we ask every single band, every single musician that comes on the show. What is a crazy story you are willing to share from a show that you have played, that you have witnessed, that other people might enjoy hearing about?
Well, I think that it's the craziest show we played, and it was 2 years ago. We were going play a show. I really don't remember where. It's not important. And on the road to go there, we were looking for picket lines, and we found one, and we showed up there, and I think it was 1,000 workers that were locked out since 1 year. So it was a big, big, big thing. It was in the news. So we stopped there. We played a couple songs, and we went to our little tour. I think it was like 1 weekend little tour or something. And while we were playing these shows in the weekend, we were keeping touch with these with that picket line, and they wrote to us and they say, "Hey, why don't you guys come back on your way back, play a couple songs, and we're gonna make yourself an electric set. We're gonna find vocals, PA, amps, and blah blah blah." So we were like, yeah, why not? And so on our way back there, on the Sunday or the Monday, we stopped there, and so we start playing an electric full punk set in front of hundreds of workers that were on lockdown, and we're doing that picket line since almost 1 year. This is like unbelievable. I admire these people because 1 year of lockout, it's not easy. It's really not easy. These people have families and blah blah. Okay. Anyway, so so yeah, we're playing these punk songs, and we're seeing that bus full of scabs that were finishing work that wanted to leave the area, and we our instruments, we went in front of the bus of scabs, and we physically blocked them with our music, and we didn't let them pass. And I think it lasts for maybe half an hour, and at that moment it got marked into everyone's heart in the band, because we were like, okay, this is what Union Thugs is about. And we found that incredible, that with our instrument we can block a bus full of scabs that were trying to leave the work.
Wow. Before I come into any, can you define what scabs are, real quick?
Oh, okay. Well, scabs, it's people that gonna get hired by bosses to go do people's job when they are on lockout or on strike.
Okay.
Mainly.
Okay.
Is that okay? That's
Okay.
that a simple explanation?
No. That's very similar to what outsourcing over here is
Yeah.
to us. So, where workers will be taking off their job to have somebody else come take their role for
Yeah,
less of the pay, but also have less
exactly.
training. Yeah, I know exactly. I never heard not scrabs, excuse me, scabs
Yeah.
to describe that. Now I see why you kind of you gave it that name. You gotta rip it off. um, but for real though, that's badass. I mean, you literally fought back
Yeah.
with the power of punk music. I mean, how much more anti-establishment, how much more punk could you get? You got in front of this bus, right? And you had your instruments. You're singing these songs. You're playing this music, and it's just like it's. I'm just so surprised no one else has talked about that. Like that's badass. Really, like I'm really surprised that that hasn't ended up on like CNN or anything like that. I mean, that's like right on. Power to you guys. Power to what you're doing. Power to that. It is right on. That's really radical.
And power to the working class.
Um, Before we end out today, you were talking a little bit about the 1 year gap or the 1 year lockout they were going through, right? And so I can tell you're getting a little into that. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that before we end on today? Is there
What
anything you want to touch on that by chance?
about the pandemic?
Oh no, about what the workers were going through with their struggles, and when those scabs came out prior to that, because it was a whole year long and lockout for them. I think you said right.
Yeah, well, that yeah, and it's done. It's over. Oh, fuck, man, but it shouldn't happen. That shouldn't be a thing. A 1 year lockout. What the fuck? This is wrong. Like the only thing I have in mind is this is so fucking wrong. As I was saying, these people need to feed their families, and they are there on picket lines, like whatever is the weather is, because on the fucking winter at -30, they were on that fucking picket line, and it's like I don't know how they did for 1 year to fight like crazy. I'm like on yeah. I admired these people. I admired every single workers that is gonna fight for their working class condition and yeah, solidarity, man, all the way.
Yeah, that's again. I'm an admirer of it too, because I didn't realize the struggles they had to go through to just get their voices be heard. So respect for sure. Definitely. Like I can't even imagine what would that be like on our end of people trying to gather for that. And so I just think that's really inspiring, seriously. And the fact that you and Union Thugs got to be part of that and actually help out with keeping that bus from going. I mean, seriously, bravo.
Thank you.
So we'll make sure we get those links in the description below. Jennifer, thank you again for coming on and hanging out with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey there, ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants. That was pretty great, right? I gotta agree. I mean, that is biased for me to agree with my own interview that I conducted, right? However, let me just point it out really quick that it's really just kind of astounding how punk maintains its same type of, ideals for the most part, regardless of where it comes from in the world. And it's, I this was the first time I ever got to talk to Jennifer, and it was just really nice to be able to talk to someone, even again with with a little bit of a language barrier, but still meet some like common ground. I mean, Union Thugs in general are just a great band, and I'm gonna keep imploring all y'all to please check them out and support them, follow them, like them, everything. You know what to do because you're amazing listeners, and I don't have to run down the whole list again. But with that aside, I want to give another thank you to Jennifer Bobette for coming on and hanging out with me and playing my horror game with me. That was a blast. It was a blast getting to talk to her and get to know her and about the band. We're going to go ahead and jump into some music here. But before we do that, again, I wanted to express to any bands or musicians who are listening to this episode to please contact us through our email, prhpbands@gmail.com. That is where we will receive all your promotional material if you want to come on the show. We do have people that still reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram or on our Twitter, and I just want to let you all know that we are purposely not ignoring you. It's just that we don't check those three as often for those types of messages because we are trying to move everything to that email so it can be a little more seamless with bringing people on and keeping that organized. So again, if you are a band or musician who wants to come on and hang out with us and talk about your music and get yourself promoted, please send all your promotional material, who you are, what your band's about, to our email, prhpbands@gmail.com. Again, that is prhpbands@gmail.com. That link will be in the description and notes below. Ghouls, Gals, Creeps and Moons, thank you again for hanging out with me and for this long-winded outro as well. Let's go ahead and jump into some music from Union Thugs. One of these I'm going to tell you all right now, I'm going to not be able to pronounce correctly, so this is going to be the first song that we hear out, that we listen to. It's called Les Péquis de la Gloire. I don't think I did that correctly at all, and Jennifer and Union Thugs, if you're listening, or any fans of Union Thugs, I am sorry. I am very sorry. But we're also going to be jumping into Union Made and War on the Workers. Again, check out Union Thugs, give them some love, give them some support, and let's jump into it.
Il était une fois comme dans n'importe quelle histoire, d'un côté les hommes de loi et de l'autre les piteuses de la victime cachée dans l'ombre. On voit celle qui vient du cœur. Ils se relèvent des décombres et ils construisent en s'unissant une vie nouvelle qui est à eux. education, it's a war on child labor protection, it's a war on the 8-hour day, it's a war on occupational health and safety, it's a war on social security. Now thanks to WTO, GATT, NAFTA, MAI, the IMF and the World Bank, it's a worldwide war. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Yeah, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. And it's time, sisters and brothers, you know it's time right now. I said it's time we started calling the show.